Glenn Clark Radio Show. This is Stan the Fan sitting in for Glenn Clark today. Glenn is at funeral, and our thoughts and prayers go to Glenn Clark. I'm sitting in on this Friday morning where I normally would be co-hosting with Glenn Clark, but I'll be in here, and I will have my co-host be, let me think, Griffin Bass is going to be my
Thank you. I always get worried that you will forget my name, but I'm glad it was in there somewhere.
Never forget you.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you.
Got a lot to talk about in the world of sports today. Of course, we'll focus quite a bit on the Baltimore Orioles, just off of a 6-game road trip, which, quite fortunately, Griffin, the Orioles ended on an up note with a really nice comeback victory yesterday against the Milwaukee Brewers that took them to 500 on this 6-game road trip.
Yes, it did. I mean, that's what they needed. They've been the best comeback team in baseball all season. So it's kind of it's good to know that they can still do that even if the offense is sputtering, and they'll figure things out. Late in the ball game like they have been all season. Even if they don't have guys like Cedric Mullins in the lineup, if Santander is slumping, who obviously broke out last night last afternoon. And even Gunnar Henderson coming through with the big hit. The offensive, worries are by no means dissipated.
The one thing that's pretty clear is that this team really misses Cedric Mullins. Mm-hmm. There's no question about it. And remember a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember if it was on this show or on the Saturday show, the Bat Around with Paul and Zach, that I mentioned shaking up the lineup a bit. And I said that, to me, the season that Ryan Mountcastle is having is just not sustainable to a winning baseball team if that guy is right in the middle of your lineup. And he and Anthony Santander, frankly, they both strike out a good bit. Mm-hmm. The difference is Santander throws in an occasional walk, to where it's not a sort of embarrassing ratio of strikeouts to walks. But Ryan Mountcastle has really been struggling of late. Manager Brandon Hyde has seen fit to finally drop him down to number 6. And I would even go one step further. I would probably have somebody like McCann hitting in front of him. But the numbers don't lie. And, Ryan Mountcastle this season has had 2 really big games. He's had a 2-homer, 9 RBI game, which was on April the 11th.
Oh, my goodness.
And then on May the 3rd, or May the 2nd, he had a 2-homer, 5 RBI game. So you get his 11. How many has he got for the season?
He's got
11 home runs. And he's got 39 runs batted in. You take away those 2 games, and I know it's not fair to say that because you can't take away those 2 games. He would have 7 home runs, and he'd have 25 RBIs.
And that is just you can't have that from your first baseman in this day and age. In this day
batting
in baseball.
4th
right.
in the heart of your lineup. So I ran some numbers. I didn't run them through like a computer-generated program, but I looked them up. Since that April 11th date, where he had the 2 homers and 9 RBIs, since then he's had 207 at-bats, 42 hits, 6 homers, 21 RBIs, 9 walks, 46 strikeouts, batting a robust .218, .256, .363, .619 slash line. That's batting average, .218, on-base percentage, .256. Slugging percentage is down in like the Mark Belanger range of .363, and his OPS is .619. Now, since that second 2-homer, 5 RBI game on the 2nd of May, his batting average is even lower. It's .204, .261, .345, .607. He's had 3 homers, 13 RBIs, 8 walks, and 33 strikeouts, and just 23 hits. So manager Brandon Hyde, I think, frankly, is doing the right thing by playing. I expect that Josh Lester will be probably sent back to the minors, and I think we're going to see Cole Irvin come back up here. I don't know that for
to make
a
the
fact,
start tomorrow.
To make the start tomorrow,
it seems logical, obviously. But I mean, the alarming part, I mean, after you're reading all those numbers, is that that's not a guy that you can really be confidently rolling out there every single day, especially to be batting 6th or higher at 4, 5,
right.
and 6.
I didn't run down those. I didn't break down those numbers against left-handed pitching. I just did his numbers. Period. I don't think there's any question that Ryan Mountcastle would give you significantly more production against left-handed starting pitching. So Ryan Mountcastle, who and it's been interesting that twice in the last 2 weeks they've given Ryan Mountcastle days off and sort of called them sort of mental days off, sort of to retool, decompress a little bit. I think, frankly, that's been the problem with Ryan's entire career, as nobody has held his hand to the flame and said you've got to do better than helping the pitcher out. Seemingly 3 out of every 4 times he seems to help the pitcher out.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, he is batting .311 against lefties this season, and only 74 at bats compared to 164 against righties.
Just curious, how many of the home runs are against lefties?
His home runs against lefties, he has 7 homers against lefties,
so
4 against righties.
So he's at 4.
Mm-hmm.
And his RBIs, what would they be against left-handers?
22 against lefties, 17 against
17,
right-handers.
okay.
Yeah, and David Lynch is on the mound tonight for Kansas City. He's a lefty.
So
yes,
Ryan
you expect him
Mountcastle
in the
will be
lineup.
there.
Yeah,
but I would still, to me, I'd much rather have
Arias,
Austin Hayes
yeah.
or Urias up in that position.
How do you feel about Ramon Urias? I heard a lot of people I feel like have been down on him lately. I mean, what he brings defensively, I think he's been a relatively consistent bat. I mean, obviously he missed a few weeks because he was injured.
Yeah.
But I think he's been more of a consistent bat than Mountcastle, than Mateo.
Yeah, I would
even
say
Gunnar.
that I would say if I'm facing a right-hander and Urias is in there, he's going to bat higher than Mountcastle to me. He'd probably bat like 6th, and Mountcastle could go 7th to me. I'll just make a flat-out prediction that next year that Ryan Mountcastle probably, in my humble opinion, won't be a member of the Baltimore Orioles. Now, the Orioles probably don't like me saying that. Ryan Mountcastle probably doesn't like me saying that. But I think the bullseye is kind of on his back when you look at a team that isn't as good as the Tampa Bay Rays. We're now 6.5 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays, who are playing. It's beyond belief how they're doing. They're 46-19. The Orioles are 38-24. We're not that good. We're not as good as the Tampa Bay Rays, so you've got to start looking at individual pieces and how do you get better. Well, a rough estimate is that you face, am I right, Griffin? A rough estimate. You face right-handed starting pitching about 70% of the time.
Yeah.
Is that
yeah.
fair?
Maybe even more. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, but
so that's 70% of your games you're going to get production like that from Ryan Mountcastle. So you either got to drop him way down in the lineup or play somebody like they are now, Ryan O'Hearn and Josh Lester played before him yesterday's game, and they both, played a part in the victory. Mountcastle, so if I'm predicting right now, I think there's a better than average chance that Heston Kjerstad is playing some first base with this baseball team next year.
yeah, I mean that would seem that makes a lot of sense because you know Mullins will be back. You expect Kowser will have his spot in the outfield. Maybe Austin Hayes is that 3rd or 4th outfielder, and then Kjerstad can hopefully anchor first base for you. And then Santander is obviously in the mix as well, platooning in right in right field, maybe even first base, DHing.
Yeah. I mean that looks to me to be the big change that we'll make during the off season. I don't expect that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? When they're fishing for a pitcher, I think they would love, for example, if they had to give up one prospect and could throw Ryan Mountcastle in a deal, and move Santander to first and Cowsers in right even this year. I think that's a possibility. I know you're going to be selling low on Ryan Mountcastle if you would get rid of him during the season, but I don't know. He's in a funk, a very serious funk right now to me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and it seems like more and more that it's not necessarily a funk, but it's the norm, and it's what he is. He'll hit about 300-ish against lefties. He'll have obviously he sees lefties a lot better, and against righties he's gonna strike out. I mean, he's gonna strike out more than he walks against both. But and it kind of leads into the other guy that the Orioles have been trotting out every single day for the past month, and it's Jorge Mateo. And before we get into that, have we previewed the rest of the show? Who else is coming on?
No, we haven't done that. That's a good idea. At 10:40 this morning, we're going to have my friend Marty Bass, a longtime weatherman over at Channel 13, WJZ. We're going to talk about this air quality issue because, first of all, and I thank you for reminding me to mention who the guests are before we go on a rant about Ryan Mountcastle. But Marty Bass will join us and talk about this air quality in light of it's almost apropos I'm about to sneeze, but the air quality from these wildfires in Canada. It's pretty amazing. We're probably 1,500 to 1,700 miles away from these fires, and yet they're impacting Major League Baseball in New York, in Philly, last night Washington, and there's a possibility. I know the Orioles are monitoring the air quality because, first of all, what you don't want is you don't want your fans coming out. Some of them in the susceptible range with health issues. You don't want them sitting out there risking health to watch a baseball game, and you also don't want your players out there. Players are out on the field for a good chunk of the time, and it was interesting. The New York Yankees and Chicago White Sox, they went from missing a game Wednesday to playing a doubleheader on Thursday in New York.
Yes.
And I wonder how healthy that was to have players out on the field for 2 games and asking your fans. That was a single admission doubleheader at Yankee Stadium yesterday, a split between the Yankees and the White Sox.
The White Sox doing us some favors, it turns out. Yeah.
So Marty Bass is our guest at 10:40. We'll talk a little bit about that issue right now. 11 o'clock, a longtime friend of mine, and he was a former professor of mine at UMBC back in the early 70s in American Studies, Lee Lowenfish. He's written 5 books on baseball, and his latest is Endangered Species. Where did I write it down?
I think I might have it for you to help you out.
Baseball's Endangered Species, Inside the Craft of Scouting by Those Who Lived It. University of Nebraska Press is the publisher. So I urge you you can order that book on Amazon or at your local bookstore here in town, like the Ivy Bookstore in Mount Washington. At 11:20, we'll have the manager of the Delmarva Shorebirds. That's Felipe Alou. I don't know if his name is Junior.
It is
or
Junior.
not.
It is Junior. Yeah, Felipe Alou.
He's the son of Felipe Alou, longtime Major League manager. But the manager of the Mets prior to Buck Showalter doesn't use the name Alou, but he was also the son of Felipe Alou. I forget his name now. And
all right, I'll find it.
All right, you'll find it. Anyway, he's managing the Delmarva Shorebirds. He's managed Heston Kjerstad last year for a little while, managed Jackson Holiday for a little while, and right now he's got Creed Willems, catcher, and Samuel Basayo.
Yeah, well, Creed Willems just got promoted to Aberdeen.
That's right. But he did manage him this year.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, for about 2 months.
And probably managed him last year for a chunk of time, I'm guessing. So he could talk to how much improved he is. Then at 11:40, our old friend Steve Stewart used to be the sports director on WBAL radio and sometimes part-time play-by-play games on Orioles baseball. He's now with the Kansas City Royals broadcast team. Steve's got a great voice and a great deal of knowledge about one of the most disappointing teams in baseball. Their GM is J.P. Piccolo.
I'll get that answer for you in 2 seconds. Dan.
You're my you know.
It was Luis Rojas, by the way. It was
Luis Rojas.
Yes, he just didn't go by Alou because I'm not sure why. Royals general manager is what we want? Okay. Yeah, J.J. Piccolo.
Okay. We'll talk to Steve Stewart about that team. They're rebuilding under a new general manager who took over from Drayton Moore, I think it was. And he is the general manager of the team. And Matt Quartaro is the manager of the Kansas City Royals. They are very disappointing, 18-44. You know, they had Bobby Witt up before Adley Rutschman, and it almost looked at the beginning of last year that their rebuild was moving along faster than the Orioles.
Yeah,
They had some really, and they really hit a speed bump, and they are 18-44, 12 and a half games back of first place Minnesota. That's the one division in baseball right now that does not have a single team over 500. Minnesota Twins are first place, 31-32, and 31-32. Cleveland is 3.5 games back at 29-33, and the White Sox, they're only 1.5 games behind. Cleveland is 1.5 games behind Minnesota.
Wow.
Chicago and Detroit, and Detroit's been abysmal this week, 3-7 or 2-8. They are 26-34. White Sox are 28-36. Those two teams are just 3.5 games out of first place. So if you're the GM of the Chicago White Sox, you got a tough decision to make whether you're playing for this year. You know, everybody assumes they're going to trade Lance Lynn or,
Giolito.
Giolito.
Yeah.
Some even think they'll trade Dylan Cease or Clevenger. But they may be close enough that,
they're in it. I mean, they got hot, I guess.
Do you follow them at all? Because
the White Sox?
The most bizarre thing is I know Tim Anderson's had an injury, and I forget what the injury was. But I looked at him the other day. I think he's got 0 home runs, and he's hitting about 230, and I think he's got like 9 RBIs. This is an all-star player, caliber player. He's having just a dismal season.
Yeah, only 6 stolen bases, and in a year where that should have helped him, propped him up for stolen base wise.
Yeah, based on what's going on this year, he should have like 12 stolen bases. But you can't steal first base.
No, you can't.
They haven't changed that rule yet. Anyway, just wanted to let you know that this program is brought to you by. How did I end up bearing?
Which one? Who do we want to bring it to?
We want to talk about A.J. Michaels. Expert and award-winning A.J. Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is upon us, and with this air quality issue now, you don't want your windows open at home, so you want to have that air conditioning running.
Yeah.
So AC season is upon us. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. I want your opinion. This copy. Every time I say AC season is upon us, then I go to say new rebates, I say something else. I say like, nah. I don't do new. I go, no. Anyway, new rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com.
Thought you read that expertly. I think the point got across.
And then
everyone knows they need to call AJ Michaels.
That's the point of the reading the ads. And I want to tell folks to go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers now and get $150 in bonus bets from DraftKings after placing your first $5 bet. See this and other great sportsbook offers at PressBoxOnline.com/offers.
Yeah, before we previewed the rest of the show, I wanted to kind of, as we were talking about Mountcastle, going to Mateo. Mateo's doing the exact same thing, essentially, almost at a worse rate, though, because his month of May, Stan, if you want me to read his numbers, he was batting 128 in the month of May, getting on base 165, a 151 slugging, so he was OPSing at 316. 316 was his OPS for the month of May.
One big difference, of course, is Mateo's batting ninth.
Yes. And plus defensively, he plays shortstop, and that is a position. And honestly, I think we kind of missed him yesterday. In the first inning, that play with the ball up the middle.
I really would have played Urias at shortstop and Henderson at third. I think Henderson really gets It's not enough to say, well, we won the game and he hit a big home run, which he did. But it looked on a couple plays, he was really off kilter playing shortstop.
He did make the one nice diving play.
Fantastic play.
But yeah, because this is what we've talked to people like so far this season. Glenn and I have, and everyone that we talked to, I think we might have had Mike Bordick on earlier this season, and he says play him at one position. He needs to have one position. Keep him at third.
I think his offense is so important to what this team can be this year. There's a lot of times you're going to have a guy that hits, whether he's a second-year guy like Gunnar is, and he's not a full second-year guy. He played a month in the big leagues last year when he made that meteoric rise from Aberdeen all the way to the major leagues in one season. But there's always going to be players that put together June, July, August, and September that lift not only their own individual stats, but they can lift a ball club, okay? And he's the guy on the Orioles that's capable of doing that. And I think it's important that he just come out and play relaxed and loosey-goosey. I think putting him at short yesterday,
puts a lot of pressure on. It definitely will tense you up.
Yeah.
And
it's like I compare that to you go to McDonald's, right? And you say, I want the Big Mac, and I don't want any special. I don't want the Big Mac sauce. I want ketchup and mustard. And the person behind the counter is like, wait a minute, what? What? I just want to give you the Big Mac, I think playing shortstop like that for a kid who's not playing it every day anymore, I think it throws him off his game.
And because also practically, like, what is his future at shortstop with the Orioles? Once if the Orioles do decide to move on from Mateo, whether that's this month, next month, some point this season, Joey Ortiz will likely slot right in at shortstop. And then after that, I mean, obviously Jackson Holliday's coming, so he's the long-term answer at shortstop. Gunnar Henderson needs to get comfortable at third, and that's how the Orioles should be treating that.
What's been interesting though is the club made, I think, a very astute pickup in Aaron Hicks, and I ascribe Hicks's problems. Let's not kid ourselves. Most of Aaron Hicks' problems the last 2 or 3 years have been a rash of really crippling injuries. I can't remember what they are. I think he had shoulder surgery. The list is long on the injuries that Aaron Hicks had. And there's no question that his 7-year, $70 million contract for the Yankees, which they still owe him $27 million, there's a chance he's going to make that $27 million playing for the Baltimore Orioles. Or if the Orioles want to trade, at some point in time, if he revalues himself, recalibrates his value by his performance. But so far, I'm surprised how good he looks in center field defensively, because I'd seen him, the Yankees last year got to the point where when their center fielder was out for a long time, Harrison Bader, that they had picked up in that trade, they didn't play Aaron Hicks in center field when he was healthy to play. They played him in left and moved Judge to center because Hicks looked so bad in center field. He doesn't look bad at all. He looks very comfortable out there and tracking balls very well. It's been an interesting situation because I think we all anticipated that after Colton Cowser came back from his IL stint at Norfolk, that, okay, it's not fair to bring him up on his rehab to play in the major leagues. So we'll have Hicks here for 10 or 12 days, and as soon as Cowser's really up to speed, he'll be brought up and we'll release Aaron Hicks. Well, Aaron Hicks has taken his role and potential opportunity here to heart. And my point really is, Griffin, that I think what's happened is in New York, when the fans have turned on you in New York and they've made their ultimate decision that, man, this is bad money, get rid of this guy, the pressure in New York is monumental. He won't have that pressure in Baltimore. It's a vastly different ball game. He can take a deep breath. He hasn't disappointed Oriole fans. So very astute pickup by Mike Elias, I thought.
high praise for coming from Stan the Fan on the Aaron Hicks. I mean, obviously obviously what we all want to see is Colton Cowser come up. He's had 3 games with Norfolk since he's come back from his short stint on the IL, and you know he's 4 for 6. He's 4 for 6. He's had 2 hit games. Norfolk hasn't really played this week because they've been dealing with the air quality stuff as well. So he's had one at bat this week and walked 3 times. So I mean, I think he looks pretty good, especially at least from the plate. Obviously, not really watching the games, so I can't tell if how he looks actually playing the outfield.
Means he's probably seeing the ball well, and
he had 3 walks.
Timing is pretty good.
He had 3 walks yesterday. And so that being said, everyone obviously knows that Westberg is pretty much ready. There's not much.
What's Westberg's numbers right now? Currently?
I can tell you. I think he's OPSing like right under 1,000.
Right. And his
on the
batting
season.
average is in the 290s, I think.
Yes. And so how many moves should we expect from the Orioles this weekend? Now, obviously, the Cole Irvin move almost seems like it or at least some pitcher has to come up because Brandon Hyde does not want a bullpen tomorrow.
It would seem that way. Austin Voth was very disappointing in that bullpen game, where he was intended to be the bulk guy.
Mm-hmm.
Keegan Aiken did his job for an inning, I think they're in a situation where clearly the 4-man thing did not work because nobody really pitched that well. Kyle Bradish, I will say, had an excellent performance. I don't know what gets into him in the first inning because the Kyle Bradish we saw in innings 2, 3, 4, and 5 was sensational. And he came out and he was nibbling and he got hijacked a little bit. He's got to come out in ball games with a much tougher mentality in inning number 1. And to me, that's what it is. It's an attitudinal thing, not stuff. Too much nibbling, didn't like it. But boy, 2, 3, 4, and 5 liked a lot. But I think he threw over 40 pitches.
I think he had a 30-plus pitch first inning, and then he came back.
I think
obviously,
it was close to 40.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, then he was at 90 pitches through 5 or 90 plus through 5 innings. So they really had to pull him. So it would have been nice to get another inning from Bradish, especially the way he was looking. I mean, he had struck out, I guess, 10 of the 10 batters in the next 4 innings. So yeah.
Who's supposed to go tonight?
Tonight is going to be Tyler Wells. Yeah, Tyler Wells tonight. Gibson is on Sunday, so tomorrow is the one that they still haven't announced yet.
And could you give us, because you're faster at looking this stuff up than I am, Cole Irvin's numbers? When I last looked, he was 6-1 at Norfolk.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. Jordan Westberg, for the record, he's batting .305 on the season in 52 games with Norfolk.
They don't have room for him.
Yeah, they don't have 383 on base, 601 slugging. He's OPSing at 984. As I get you Cole Irvin's numbers here.
Maybe he can play first base.
I mean, throw him at second base, move Frazier to the outfield. I'm not sure what. I mean, he's played. He's obviously not. Didn't really come at Westberg. I think mostly been playing third base, but he's played some second base this season. They've been moving him around the infield. Cole Irvin with Norfolk this season. Hang tight, Stan. I got you here. He is 6-1. You are correct. Right. 3.21 ERA. I think his turn in the rotation is supposed to be today. Obviously, Norfolk's had some postponements because of the air quality thing, so I'm not sure if they'll just keep bumping him back or hold him off just because. I mean, do you agree
that seems inevitable? That they've got to take a look at him.
Yeah, I think they have to. I mean, they did the right thing. Grayson was pretty much ready at the beginning of April. You had to, and Irvin did not have it in his first 3 appearances with the O's, so you had to make that move in April. Unfortunately, Grayson still he kind of sputtered out. Hopefully, he does what Cole Irvin did, and 3.21 ERA. He's in 7 starts, 6-1. He has 15 earned runs in 42 innings. His WHIP is 1.05. Opposing hitters are batting 245 off of him. The strikeout numbers are low, but I mean, if he's getting outs, that's all you ask. His walk numbers are 4 walks. 4 walks
in how many innings?
In 42 innings.
Yeah. That's
so
pretty darn
that
good.
is really darn.
That's
really darn good.
10 innings.
Yeah. And so hopefully they do call him. It seems like they have to call him up this weekend.
Again,
and he's the guy that they traded for.
Again, there's a big difference between pitching for the second place Baltimore Orioles, or what the Orioles were back when the season started, as opposed to pitching for the last place Oakland A's the last couple of years. But again, the point I make about Cole Irvin, and he did pitch in a favorable ballpark out in the Oakland Coliseum, but that's not to say that he's not pitching in a favorable ballpark right now for a left-hander. Left field is a monster shot.
Oh, yeah.
But this is a guy who threw about August 15th last year, and I remember doing the work on this. His earned run average was under 3 last year till August 15th. If you can pull him up on Baseball Reference and look where the bad games started, it was around August 18th. He had a 5 or 6 game stretch where his ERA shot from like 2.95 up to 4 essentially, and his WHIP was under 1 through the first 4.5 months of the season. Really phenomenal season from about April 25th till August 18th or something like that in there. He was one of the top 10 pitchers in the American League.
Yeah. I mean, he looked really good last year, and
he ended up with an ERA over 4, right, or 3.98 for the season.
He had 3.98 exactly.
And he pitched 6 shutout innings his last start, so it got over 4. But again, if you go back to like around,
it was a 2.92 on August 8th. His ERA was at 2.92. And
what was his WHIP on August 9th?
His WHIP on August 9th was
1.
It was. Sorry, I got all the other numbers here.
Yeah.
I'll find it, Stan. All
right.
Vamp for me.
He's the star of the show. He's Griffin Bass. The pressure's on him.
Why does it not want to tell me what his WHIP was?
Okay. No, they don't want to.
Yeah, maybe we don't want to know.
Because then the gamblers would know. Anyway, Orioles again face the Kansas City Royals, air quality permitting tonight at 7:05 at Camden Yards. Again, be left-hander Daniel Lynch versus right-hander Tyler Wells. And Wells has been kind of a revelation this year as a starting pitcher again, except for one category, giving up a lot of home runs. I think he's given up, 13 homers? I've got you on the.
Yeah.
I'm not Glenn Clark looking stuff up.
Yeah, I like it. Stan keeps me busy because he's just gonna throw out stats, and I gotta make sure I gotta double check you so that you're right. He has allowed 14 homers. Tyler Wells has this.
In how many innings?
68 and a third.
68 and a third. So that's about one every.
Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of solo homers because he's only allowed 25 runs.
Right.
Right.
But he's giving up a home run every 4 1/3 innings, something like that.
Just over 1 a start.
Yeah.
Close to 2 a start.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's
he doesn't put guys
what
on base,
gets you in
though.
a little trouble because it's hard to give up all solo homers. And inevitably, if you're giving up a lot of homers, there's going to be maybe you won't get a 3-run homer against you, but there's going to be a few 2-run homers.
And in his one start against the Royals on May 2nd, he did give up 3 homers. He went 6 innings, allowing 4 runs, and gave up 3 homers. However,
I know we got Marty Bass coming up in just a couple of minutes. Oh, say have you seen all of Maryland's minor league baseball parks? Well, PressBox is giving you the chance to check all of them out this summer. Head over to PressBoxOnline.com/contests now and sign up to win. That's PressBoxOnline.com/contests, CONTESTS, and sign up to win 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams. 1 Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25. Add a $50 gas card from Royal Farms to help you get around. Must be 18 or older to enter, and make sure you enter now because the sweepstakes ends this Wednesday, June the 14th. So get over to PressBoxOnline.com/contests right now to sign up to win. And we'll remind you that the Toyota Tacoma, that's who brings you this program every day. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. All right? Got a couple reads in there. Again, on the show today, Marty Bass talking about air quality, something we take for granted, but the last couple days up and down the East Coast, you haven't been able to take it for granted. This is something, though, I read an interesting article on the AOL feed. West Coast people that live in Seattle and Portland, they deal with this all the time from the wildfires in California. Come up the current up there, the jet stream, and blow smoke. And they've learned to live with this stuff, but it's not healthy, no question about it. Lee Lowenfish, the author of Endangered Species, Baseball's Endangered Species, Inside the Craft of Scouting by Those Who Lived It. It's a University of Nebraska publication. Lee joins us at 11. 11:20, the manager of the Delmarva Shorebirds, Felipe Alou Jr., joins us. Steve Stewart joins us at 11:40. By the way, a quick fact check. NBA series, game number 4, the championship series, because we're all in the finals, right? We're all in on the finals of the NBA. Denver leads 2-1 in games. Game 4 is played in Miami tonight at 8:30. Let's be honest. If Miami can't figure a way to get by Denver tonight, the series is all history.
I mean, Jokic is a unicorn. Yeah. Every single night he does something that has not been done before.
What was fascinating, though, is I don't recall and I'm a longtime NBA fan. I went for years where I stopped paying attention to it because the game changed so much. But I don't recall ever seeing a team have 2 triple-doubles on the same team, and one of them be your 6'2" guard. 6'3" guard.
It was my tidbit yesterday. It is the first time that there have ever been 2 30-point triple-doubles from players on the same team ever. Regular season, postseason, NBA Finals. It's the first time it's ever been done.
Of course, we're talking about Jamal Murray and
Nikola Jokic.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
It really is.
By the way, Orioles are in second place in the American League East. Behind the Tampa Bay Rays. Rays are 46-19, O's 38-24, and the New York Yankees and Toronto almost flat-footed tie, 37-27 the Yankees, 36-28 for Toronto. Boston has slipped badly, and in this division, you can't slip badly for about 2 weeks and hope to stay in the thing. They are now 31-32, the only team in the division. What was that about yesterday? They brought up this pitcher, Matt Dermody, who wasn't pitching sensationally at Pawtucket. So instead of my guy, Garrett Whitlock, getting to face the Cleveland Indians, he's pitching tonight. They bumped him back a day to start against Garrett Cole and the Yankees. And then it comes out that Matt Dermody, there was this whole thing about him putting out a tweet about a year and a half ago on Twitter about basically anti-gay tweet, but he took it down because he never wanted to hurt anybody.
Okay, well, then I guess he did the right thing. Yeah. I mean, such a shame, really, for a Red Sox pitcher like that to just get hammered by the Guardians last night. Yeah. Take a quick break here, and then we'll chat with Marty Bass.
That sounds like a plan to me. We'll be back with more on the Glenn Clark Radio Show right after this.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holliday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip, that first bite, Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Hey, O's superfans! Marvel Superhero Day is coming to Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Saturday, June 10th, when the O's play the Kansas City Royals at 4:05. Be one of the first 25,000 fans 15 and over at the game to receive an exclusive Adley Rutschman bobblehead inspired by Captain America. Come out to experience the Marvel Universe at Oriole Park and arrive early for Early Bird Saturdays. Gates open 2 hours before first pitch with happy hour, live music, and more. Buy tickets now at Orioles.com/tickets.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressbox online, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know what's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
It isn't Glenn, it's Stan the Fan sitting in for Glenn Clark, our friend, and our thoughts are with him and his family. He's attending a funeral of a family member. So he'll be back with you on Monday, and our thoughts and prayers go out to Glenn Clark's family. Hey, these are the final days for you to pick up this print issue of Press Box. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick, Jackson Holiday, and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Koprovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. It's all there for you online, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com. Coming next week, a new print issue of Press Box that celebrates the enduring legacy of Ravens legend Tony Siragusa. Speaking of legends, got our friend Marty Bass on the line, longtime WJZ celebrity and mostly known for being a weatherman. Marty, how are you, my friend?
Stan the Fan, what are you up to, pal?
I'm sitting in for Glenn Clark today. How you doing?
If I was Glenn, I'd never let you sit in. It's kind of like, Wally Pipp.
No, think about that.
Stan
Think
comes
about
into the
that.
chair,
Wally Pipp was about 30, I think, and Lou Gehrig was probably 24. I'm 71, so I'm not taking anybody's job. Okay.
You don't look a day over 69.
Hey, Marty, before we talk about this air quality, the reason we wanted to have you on, can you believe it's been a year since Tony Siragusa passed away?
No, I'm shocked when you just said that. Wow, a year. I'm a little speechless right there. I just recently rewatched the ESPN 30 for 30.
Yeah.
And they did such a good job, given the hand they were dealt. One of the stars of their program passes away at an untimely young age.
Yep.
And they did such a good job beginning it with him, ending it with him in some of the great Goose lines. A year.
It's hard to believe. It really is hard to believe. And we got a really nice story. Dave Ginsburg has talked to family members, former teammates about the attempt to keep his business alive in the Goose flights, which he does for, to help people that need to travel for surgeries, so it doesn't cost them an arm and a leg to get to where they have to get to. So his family.
You want to talk about it? You want to talk about a legend, Ginsburg? How about that, folks? I don't know if you realize how great and respected a writer he is.
Yeah, he's terrific. He's terrific. Hey, Marty.
Really. You know what? You know what? If I was ever, because I don't, when I get Raven stuff, we sit next to each other at the ballpark. You see me all dressed up.
Yep.
I don't normally put anybody's name on the back because, here today, gone tomorrow. There goes your $85.
Yep.
I've got a Ray. I got a Suggs. I've got a Stover. I got a Tucker. But you know what? If I was to get one, I think it would be a Syracuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer that teams ought to do more with the legendary players with jerseys. I think fans would like to have an older player that maybe they didn't even like a 20-year-old. To me, might just as be interested in Syracuse on his back rather than who's the
Flowers.
Flowers, right? Or
Hey, here I'll roll one out. I'll roll one out to you out of left field.
Yep.
Sharper.
Yep, that's a
Jamie
good one.
Sharper.
Jamie Sharper.
How about
Yep.
that?
How about Kim Herring?
How about Kim Herring?
How about Benny Thompson? I'd wear a Thompson jersey, number 37.
My friend has a number 1 Randall Cunningham Ravens jersey.
Wow, that's a good one.
That's a good one. You like that one?
That is a good one.
Okay.
That is a good one.
I'll let him know.
Hey, Marty, wanted to have you on today to talk about what is really a unique problem to East Coast folks, and that's this air quality situation brought about by the wildfires in Canada.
Over 270 fires. Wrap your brain around that.
270 fires right now?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
What was over us last week? Remember, anybody you watched on TV, heard on radio talking about the haze last week?
Yep.
That was from wildfires out in Western Canada over Vancouver.
Okay.
This stuff's directly north of us. And there's this big low that's over Eastern Canada. A low spins counterclockwise. Weather's not that tough to figure out.
Yep.
So you've got that counterclockwise spin, grabbing that smoke and putting it right down over our area. It's just, last night my wife and I went out and had a little happy hour cocktail.
Right.
And I was looking out the window and I thought, on a humid day in the summer, that's water vapor. You can breathe that.
Yep.
That was not what you've been looking at, what you're still looking at, folks. You might as well walk through cigarette smoke or cigar smoke. It's the same damn thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so here's my question. How does that end up getting in a short period of time? Because I know the Orioles are monitoring the air quality in Baltimore today and will make a decision and determination about tonight's game at some point, probably early in the afternoon. How does it get dissipated so quickly, or is this something that could hang here for a couple of weeks?
It's not going to hang.
Okay.
Here's what's going to happen. Today, much better than yesterday. We have code orange air advisory in effect, though.
Okay.
Yesterday it was hazardous. Okay.
Okay.
I wouldn't have a problem going out to the ballpark tonight as a fan. I cannot speak for the Baltimore Orioles. Yesterday I would not have. I'm coming off a huge sinus infection that I had at the end of last week, and I actually was thinking about wearing a mask yesterday had I been out.
Okay.
It's not going to get any worse as we move through the day. This time yesterday we had under a mile visibility. Right now we have 10-mile visibility.
Okay.
But nonetheless, having said that, we're still in the unhealthy range. Tomorrow we are still going to be dealing with smoke and haze, but that will be more aloft, more well above our heads. The ground issue right now is starting to dissipate. It will still be with us tomorrow, but it will be well above our heads. And Sunday is going to be a great day.
All right.
So
and so what moves it? What moves it along? Is it wind?
Air. Wind.
Okay.
Yeah. Wind. We have a gentle breeze coming out of the north and west, and that's what's moving in here, and we'll move it south and east, move it away. That's what will happen.
I was reading the other day a really interesting piece. I get a lot of my news tidbits from AOL. I'll look at the run of their features stories. And it was one that the East Coast is now feeling what it feels like to live out west. The wildfires in California, they blow up, don't they? Up toward Portland and Seattle. Don't they get a lot of that from there?
Yeah, they get those. They call them the Santa Ana winds. They come up from the Sea of Cortez. They come screaming right through California, straight up the coast. It's completely different.
Is that a more permanent or almost ongoing threat on the West Coast?
Yeah.
In cities like Portland and Seattle.
How about LA?
Yeah.
How about the Imperial Valley out in the center of California?
Yeah.
They deal with this a lot. And this is not to be confused with the inversions that we'll get in the middle of the summer, where the air is just junk. I mean, it's just, code red air quality. We live it here every summer. This is totally different. This is smoke. This is particulate matter. I said it yesterday on the air, and I think I was pretty accurate. Shout out me. This is not unlike as extreme as a blizzard or a tropical storm. This is a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. And
I mean,
especially,
it really honestly is.
you know, it's nice to think that young people who don't have respiratory issues, that it's okay that they sit in this sometimes, but it really is a problem if you have a pre-existing health condition that has to do with your lungs. You do not want to be out in this, even today. Correct, Marty?
But if you have to go out, let's say you have a pre-existing condition, elderly, you have some respiratory issues, and even young have respiratory issues. It's not age specific. You can put on a mask. Today, I think if you put on a mask, you'd be relatively safe.
Okay.
Just don't decide I'm going to go to the park and sit around for 5 or 6 hours. If you're able-bodied, go ahead and slowly and surely start to resume your life. I'm just looking out the window here on TVO. We've got pretty good visibility.
All right.
It's not, let me put it this way. We can sum it up this way. The worst is over. It's not going to get any worse today than it was yesterday, and later today won't be any worse than it is now. We are slowly and surely trending toward the good.
You know, I just wanted to run one more thing by you. It was really curious to me, though. The Yankees and the White Sox game on Wednesday was called off, you know, because of the air quality. Yet they played in a doubleheader yesterday at Yankee Stadium, and the Arizona-Washington game was called off. Isn't New York a lot closer to the bad air?
Yeah, but that bad, all those surreal pictures we saw from New York the other day.
Yeah,
that all came down here. Yeah,
that's what came yesterday. All right.
So it's clearing upstream. My son lives in Manhattan.
Yep.
And he sent a picture yesterday, same view he had sent the day before, and it was 90% improved.
All right. Hey, I appreciate your jumping on. Tell folks a little bit about your son. I know you're very proud of your daughter, Savannah, and Jake, your son, but what he does, because he's in the sports world.
Jake works for Barstool Sports. Up until recently, he was the senior producer for Foreplay and all things golf. He's kind of moved into mid-management now. He's overseeing their NASCAR show called Rubbin' Is Racing with Spider and Large, for those of you who are familiar with Barstool. And he also has a couple of other podcasts under his purvey now that he's kind of given the Jake Bass touch to.
That's great.
They also said, and while you're doing all that, you get to oversee all the interns.
That's great. That's great stuff. I know you're very proud of both of your kids, but I just thought we'd get that out there about Jake because he's now a part of the sports, broadcasting establishment.
And if I can throw just something out, because he worked real hard with Riggs and Trent and Frankie and Lurch and now Dan Rappaport on Barstool Golf, Foreplay.
Yeah.
They were all over this Live PGA thing. Our family text was on fire the other day. And this is still shaken down. This may be the biggest sports story of the century so far.
All right. Well, listen, we really appreciate
other than Lamar
Jackson, right? All right. Hey, thanks for coming on, jumping on with us, Marty. Appreciate it.
Hey, as they would say in the world of Barstool, viva la press box.
All right, and see ya. All right, there's Marty Bass. There he goes. Hey, Stan the Fan Charles has changed up the format of his weekly shows. That's interesting. Now every Monday at
what?
I think Marty's still on.
No, Marty's on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Marty.
That was you talking.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
You threw me off.
Okay.
You sounded just like Marty.
Oh, really?
Now every Monday at 6 p.m., Stan will be joined by former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley and press box managing editor Luke Jackson to break down the latest with the Birds. Every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein will still chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. This week, Stan and Gary caught up with Towson basketball coach Pat Scarry. Next week, we're going to be doing it Thursday at 6 o'clock, and our guest will be the new head of the Maryland Stadium Authority, Craig Thompson, will join us. You can watch the shows live at facebook.com/pressbox or find them the next day at pressboxonline.com/video and youtube.com/pressboxonline. So join Stan and Ross, Luke Jackson this Monday and every Monday at 6 p.m. one qualifying note. This week we're going to try and do it at 5 o'clock.
Okay. All right, got it.
Don't know who our guest is going to be.
Everyone write that
We've
down.
really changed from being a guest-intensive show where it was me and Ross and an old Oriole. Now it's more Oriole current content with 3 of us batting it around. So we'll look forward to that. And then
That's what happens when the Orioles are good, I guess, right?
Yeah, the Orioles are good right now. Yeah, that's a good point.
Gives me a lot easier to talk about them.
That's right. Hey, before we bring on Lee Lowenfish, I wanted to tell you again about PressBox is offering new sports betting bettors the best sign-up bonuses and promos from 7 legal online sports books. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers now and get offers like $150 in bonus bets from DraftKings after placing your first $10 bet, or up to $1,250 in bonus bets from Caesars. Time is limited to get the best offers from all of the sports books. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers and sign up today. We'll be back with Lee Lowenfish in just a moment.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
The Orioles are off and running, out to prove that last season wasn't a fluke, and they are one of the best teams in baseball. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, host of the Bat Around for PressBox. Tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon as Zach Goodman and I break down every Adley bomb, every Tony Tater, and every save from the mountain. Like a warm hug from Rutschman, the Bat Around has you covered with all things Orioles as we embark on what's sure to be a magical summer in Birdland. So tune in every Saturday for the best in Orioles coverage right here on the Bat Around.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge: 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
We're back here. I'm waxing nostalgia with Griffin Bass. I'm Stan the Fan, sitting in for Glenn Clark on GCR today.
I was trying to learn a little bit more about Stan the Fan. And
there's a lot to learn.
The legend of Stan the Fan Charles.
All right. Lee Lowenfish coming up momentarily. He's written Baseball's Endangered Species Inside the Craft of Scouting by those who loved it. University of Nebraska publication. We still have coming up Felipe Alou Jr., the manager of the Delmarva Shorebirds, at 11:20 and 11:40. Steve Stewart, and we'll have a tidbit a little bit later on in the show, and Tubular, a couple features that everybody looks forward to on the Glenn Clark radio program. We move along, and joining us right now is, I have to admit, I'm dating myself, but he's an old friend and former professor of mine at UMBC in the American Studies program. He is Lee Lowenfish. Lee, how are you?
Well, I'm feeling okay. I haven't been out yet, and it was very scary here earlier in the week. But it looks like it's getting better. But they played a doubleheader in the Bronx yesterday, and as far as I know, no illness yet. But boy, that's a wake-up call about climate change. But what can you say? I mean,
what climate? Climate change? We don't have any climate change, do we, Lee?
Right.
Hey, by the way, I'm sorry to hit you with this on the air, but I've been meaning to tell you. Longtime UMBC professor of philosophy, Tom Benson, has passed away.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah. He's married. Yeah, he married about.
We went to get.
Yeah, we used to go to Oriole games together. Yep. Tom married a very dear friend of mine's sister, a second marriage, and very sad to hear. He's been battling cancer for quite a while and finally succumbed to it. So any UMBC folks out there, say a little prayer for the late Tom Benson. He was a unique professor, as you were.
Absolutely.
Lee, as you were.
Absolutely. Well, the worst thing about getting old is this losing dear people, you know, and it's you do this with a sigh, and one of my favorite quotes of all is, "There is no wealth but life," and healthy life, of course, is the best. So he was he became an Oriole fan, as I recall, but he was a preacher's kid from Illinois.
Yeah,
and I
he was a big Orioles fan.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We went to many games. We even played pranks with each other, and he once sent a letter to the Sporting News saying that Ryan's strikeout record was more than Koufax, because Ryan had to strike out 9 batters, and Koufax struck out a lot of pitchers.
Right.
And they never printed it, so I gave him a mock call saying that I was ready. I think it was Baseball Digest, actually.
Right.
Are you Mr. Benson? He said, "Oh wow, a name." And I said, that's the most insufferable bit of balderdash. And he got even with me later by putting my name in for annual reports that just flooded my mailbox.
That's
but,
great.
That's great. We did make up. And so, it's, again, a sad day.
All right. Anyway, let me move on to the book you've written. You've written 5 baseball books, the first being The Imperfect Diamond, all the way through The Ferocious Gentleman, a biography of Branch Rickey, and now you've got a new one, Baseball's Endangered Species, Inside the Craft of Scouting by Those Who Lived It. What was the impetus to write this book, Lee?
Well, it for me, baseball has been a very personal story. I picked it up, the love of it, but unfortunately not his talent, from my father, who was a dermatologist, and 2 of his patients were baseball umpires. One of them I got to meet, Babe Pinelli, and then as I went in to study history, but was always fascinated by baseball as a very compelling part of American history. I'm back here in New York in the 1980s, and I start going out of curiosity to high school and college games, and I see a bunch of scouts, and I introduce myself to one of them, and he says, "My name is Billy Blitzer." And I said, "Are you related to Ida Blitzer, who was a patient of my father's?" He says, "She's my grandmother." He says, Are you related to Dr. Lowenfish? I'm his son. And that's how this started. He introduced me to Herb Stein. I mean, Billy is the one who signed Sean Dunston, and maybe most proud of Jamie Moyer as a 6th-round draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
And then Herb Stein, he introduced me to, and he signed Carew before the draft, and Frank Viola and Gene Larkin after the draft. And then one thing led to another. I started going to their dinners, their annual dinners, and they honored me with a community service award about 10 years ago, and that propelled me to write this book, which is both a history of baseball through the eyes of scouts and an homage to a selected group of them who have made contributions, although most of my readers will have not heard of them.
What is baseball doing? We all know that they have been for some time now an endangered species. There have been cuts. I mean, the most notable was the year that the Houston Astros were banging the trash cans. They let go of most of their scouting staff in like September of that year. What is baseball doing to replace those scouts that are no longer out scouring the bush for players?
Well, you're raising a very good point, and one of the reasons you have to never give up on baseball and this country is that there is always a corrective thing happening. And what happened with Houston, I mean, one of their great scouts there, Bobby Heck, is now a big part of the Rays department.
Mm-hmm.
And after the book was going to print, I learned that Houston is with the encouragement of Dusty Baker, who hired Dana Brown out, who was a big part of bringing Dana Brown in to be the GM. The Astros have begun to hire more scouts, and you see, baseball being baseball, every organization can really decide to go the direction they want to. The smart ones never got rid of many scouts, and that's the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Red Sox. But what is true, and this is my concern, and I blog about this, and it's certainly a highlight of my new book, is that you can't scout just by analytics and videos, and unfortunately, a lot of the new owners come in from hedge funds and that world of algorithms, and they've been sold this bill of goods from the number of the wave of geniuses coming in from the business schools and the Ivy League schools. I mean, one salient fact, Stan, is that at the turn of the century, there maybe were 2% of high officials in baseball that came out of these elite institutions. Now it's pushing 50%.
Wow.
And so it's
what fuels it? Is it the economics of literally paying the scouts, or is it the economics of wanting to get players that can get to the major leagues faster? Based on algorithms and things that they see?
Well, I think it's a combination, but the second part is very salient because they and it's going to be interesting what direction Steve Cohen's going to go with the Mets now,
right?
Because because you see Branch Rickey, who was controversial because he knew how to take care of the reserve system to his behalf, but he knew how to develop players. And I say early in the new book that when somebody asked him how much baseball do you know, Mr. Rickey, he said no more than 55%, and that was he was almost overstating it because he understood the game was about failure. And the more you play, the more you fail, the more you learn. And this has really been what one of the scouts called me, a hijacking of the sport by these people who claim that we can develop players through our test tubes and our algorithms quicker than the actual trial and error going up through the minor leagues. Now, one of the pluses on the surface anyway is when, Manfred, whose main expertise is labor law,
yep.
He has now certified a minor league union, but the pay has gone up certainly beyond the very low level. They also in the contract have pledged not to do away with any more teams in the next few years. I mean, it's incalculable what's been lost, not just to the communities that have lost minor league teams, but you can't play the game and learn the game without places to play. And the one thing that's happening now is that because the commissioner's in love with football and football TV money, and so normally the minor league system would the lower minor league system would start right after the College World Series. Now they're waiting a month so it can be part of the extravaganza at the All-Star game. That it seems to be pretty ludicrous. But that's how it's all being built toward TV money and making the All-Star Game week, a big event.
Hey, Lee, my producer's got a question for you. Got to get it fitted in. Go ahead.
So Lee, kind of looking back at the Orioles now, and kind of looking at the revitalization of their kind of minor league system, and obviously bringing in Mike Elias, is it kind of as simple to say that it's a reinvestment in kind of the scouting department, and that's what's helped kind of develop these minor leaguers, and given the Orioles now the #1 farm system in all of baseball? Is it kind of all stem back to scouting?
I'm a little bit skeptical of these ratings, but I've been critical of Elias because he came out of that Houston system that did away with a lot of the traditional scouts. But I'm giving them props, because they have located players who seem to have high ceilings, and I congratulate them on that. And the next step is making the right choices on who to keep and who to possibly trade. But certainly it's not that analytics hasn't provided some new information. What I am saying, though, is that until you play games and learn to lose as well as learn to win, I mean, you can't rush this process. And I have to admit that one of the super analytical places in Seattle, they're really scuffling now, and they were some of the biggest pro analytical people. I mean, Jerry DiPoto, he even said that that Moneyball didn't go far enough. We're going to provide the short cuts now through player development, and I'm very wary of shortcuts. But I do give props to what seems to be a good pipeline that's growing. And, by contrast, the Mets, who I follow, but I'm not emotionally involved with. I have a big heart, but it's not that big. The Mets are really in trouble because, they have DJ Stewart playing at Syracuse and Dylan Bundy. So, I mean, they haven't identified people that well, but it's hard. It's really hard, and that's why there are no sweeping answers for baseball, but good, patient player development and wise scouting are the keys to success, and that's why I did Baseball's Endangered Species, because I hate to see.
Yeah, staying on that kind of scouting part, how important is it that the Orioles have obviously they reinvested in the international kind of part of scouting with their scouting department as well, and they brought in a lot of Latin players and a lot more international guys into their system to help bolster this farm system and stay #1.
Yeah, I do think I saw Aberdeen earlier this year in Brooklyn, and it's very interesting because I saw a lot of those players at Delmarva the year before, and it's nice to see some of the development. Although the problem with a lot of the farm systems is that situational hitting doesn't seem to be part of the new wave. I saw some really bad situational hitting from the same players I saw in doing the same thing last year, and that is concern. And the most dramatic example of how crazy things have gotten is the Cardinals sent Jordan Walker, one of their big prospects, down to the minors because they didn't like his launch angle. I mean, and even the game yesterday. And again, I'm a half glass full kind of guy. I mean, Stan knows this over the decades. But even that really great game yesterday that has made my evening and today, when the Orioles came from behind, there were so many strikeouts in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, once it was 3-0, and then a ton of strikeouts, both by Bradish and by Colin Ray. And, I mean, I was talking to a Brewer fan this morning, and I said, is this the way Counsell manages every game? He doesn't let Ray, who had us eating out of his hand, go into the 6th inning, and he doesn't even warm up Williams in the 8th inning?
Right.
I mean, you know.
Bizarre, yeah.
So, you know, I mean, and so that part of the game annoys me. But as long as the fans come, and that's where it becomes very interesting, because this is not a sport that is growing in popularity. The attendance has been going down the last few years, and also the number of bad teams are going up, and that does not augur very well for the future. But you know.
Well, this year it's interesting. It doesn't seem like there's a plethora of bad teams. There's a plethora of teams there seems like there's about 14 or 15 teams that are lumped in this middle. You really only have 2 really bad teams, the Royals and the Oakland A's, who are, frankly, the A's, and we can talk about this another time, Lee, they're an absolute disgrace to be allowed to operate that way.
It's really, you know, example of life imitating art. It's major league, you know, come to Oakland, excepting it's not funny.
No,
it's not funny
at all.
The other thing why the records won't be as bad this year probably is the so-called balanced schedule. I mean, I'm not at the point where in the glory days of the Orioles I would write down the 5 starters, you know, and where they might pitch. I haven't reached that point yet, but I did, you know, write down the schedule, and you know, because we only play 13 games within the division, I mean, you're going to be playing a lot of mediocre teams for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
you know?
and so are the other teams in your division. They're going to be playing those same mediocre teams. Yeah, it makes it harder to pick up ground. Lee, we've only got another 2 minutes or so. Got Felipe Alou Jr. due to join us at 11:20. But I just wanted to ask you, have you noticed, and your book came out like the end of March, has there been an impact from your book yet? Can you tell that it's resonating with some of the folks inside the game, or is it too early?
It's too early, and I kind of doubt. I mean, there is such an investment in analytics now.
Yeah.
That it's like you know, they're the best and the brightest, right? I mean, it takes a while for mistakes to be admitted, you know, and Lord, this is they're talking expansion, and they're talking the streaming money's going to fly in. I mean, I don't think we can predict, you know, the future maybe ever, but it's going to take a while. But the nature of baseball more than the other sports. I mean, there's no salary cap and there's no real revenue sharing.
Yeah.
So so what it really takes is baseball brains, and you know, the Braves are no accident. You know, I mean, they've had a good system, and I give full props to my chapter on Paul Snyder in the book.
They've also had the benefit of having the Oakland A's as their farm club. It's it's a throwback to the Kansas City A's and the New York Yankees back in the late 50s and 60s. Lee, we've got to run. I just want to give the book. I want to give
the book is University of Nebraska Press, available from UNL EDU. I'm also going to be live at the Babe Ruth Museum.
What's the date on that?
July 18th.
July 18th.
Tuesday, July 18th at 4:00. Before it's the week the Dodgers are in town. Those are the first 3 days.
Again, the book is
always a pleasure.
The book again is Baseball's Endangered Species: Inside the Craft of Scouting by Those Who Lived It, and it's University of Nebraska publication. Lee Lowenfish, thank you for joining us, Lee. Always good to catch up with you. And go O's.
Yeah.
All right.
You go O's. Yeah.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. There's Lee Lowenfish. I want to tell you that say, have you seen all of Maryland's minor league baseball parks PressBox is giving you the chance to check all of them out this summer. Head over to PressBoxOnline.com/contests now and sign up to win 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams. 1 Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25 and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms to help you get around. Must be 18 or older to enter, and make sure you enter now because the sweepstakes ends this Wednesday, June the 14th. So get over to PressBoxOnline.com/contests right now to sign up. Appreciate Lee Lowenfish joining us there. And we're going to make our connection with Mr. Felipe Alou Jr., the manager, Delmarva Shorebirds. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of modern and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. All right. Due to be joined momentarily by manager Felipe Alou Jr., and we'll remind you that the Orioles tonight due to play, and from Marty Bass, it sounded as if they're highly likely to play that game tonight at 7:05. Daniel Lynch versus Tyler Wells tonight at 7:05 at Camden Yards. All right. Do we have Felipe?
One more minute. We're still trying to connect with him.
Okay. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, we'll
that's fine. There we go. There's Felipe Alou Jr. I was a big fan of the Alou family. Boy, when I was growing up, I was a big San Francisco Giants fan because Willie Mays was my favorite player. And it's pretty exciting to talk to Felipe Alou Jr. All right. We've got him. We're now joined by the manager of the Delmarva Shorebirds, and that's Felipe Alou Jr. Felipe, thank you for joining us on the Glenn Clark Radio Show. I'm Stan Charles. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Nice meeting you, Stan.
All right. Felipe, it's kind of special to talk to you. When I was a kid, and I'm 71 years old now, I was a huge San Francisco Giant fan. And the Giants, of course, had your dad, Felipe, then Matty, and then Jesus Alou. It's been baseball has really been an amazing part of the Alou family, hasn't it?
Oh, for sure. It's funny that you bring it up because I was just off the phone with them. So, but yeah, blessed to, be born in a baseball family, like blessed to kind of grow up basically, in a baseball clubhouse. Every time people ask me about it, I pretty much that's where I grew up. Going from like cities to cities, not only like in the big leagues but in the minor leagues. So definitely a blessing.
Tell me a little bit about, before we jump in and talk about a few prospects there, tell me a little bit about your background. Did you play minor league ball for a significant amount of time, Felipe?
Yes, I was fortunate to play for 4+ years. I was out almost an entire year with an injury, but yes, I got drafted. Went to a junior college in California. Same place where my brother actually went. So I got drafted there twice, and finally signed. I was drafted by the Royals, so I was in the farm system for about 4 years.
Okay. All right, let's talk a little bit about, first of all, I got to ask you the two most obvious things before I talk to you about current players you have right now, is that you got to manage both Heston Kjerstad and Jackson Holliday on their way up the ladder in minor league baseball. Can you tell us what you think of both of those players? Let's start with Heston Kjerstad.
Both those guys were special players. There's no doubt why we drafted them in the first round, especially Jackson, making him number one overall. But Heston, last year was his first year actually, like being able to play like fully healthy. I know he's gone through a lot towards the end of his college career and then the beginning of his professional career. So, I mean, having him last year and being a part of him being able to go back on the field and do the thing that he loves doing so much, which is playing baseball, on a daily and a consistent basis. It was a blessing for all of us. And then to have him, go about his business every day. Even this year, like with some of the young players that were around him last year, like he shows up every day ready to go. The guy hustles. He plays the game right. And this year, coming back, and when I saw him in spring training, knowing that he's only getting better physically than now.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to ask you that, Felipe. When you saw him in spring training, how much more confident and ready to play was he than a year prior?
Earth to sky. You could see that he lost some weight. Like he's finally physically what he wants to be, because it's been tough the last few years for him, and not easy. And only he knows what this whole process, what's all about. So, but this year, after we've been able to play for a few months, coming back and understanding, I'm going to start the season healthy. You could see he was physically ready. You could see he was mentally ready, and he had a pretty solid good camp. So. And he's doing the same in Double A.
He just got promoted up to Triple A now. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
all right. How about Jackson Holiday, Felipe?
And then Jackson's another special kid, special individual, special human being, teammate. I last year had him for a little bit, and this year I had him for a little bit actually. And we needed to challenge him and move him to the next level, and he's doing so well over there. But last year when he came to me, try to relate a little bit to him. We grew up in a baseball family. I grew up in a baseball family. So just trying to, let him know that sometimes, when you think, I grew up here and this is what I'm supposed to do, just don't put that pressure on yourself. And it's not like he's ever done that. But just trying to be there for him in that aspect, because everything else is just solid act. It's another kid who comes to the ballpark ready to go. His work ethics are outstanding. He practiced like he was playing the game, so and that's why it translates so easy to the game.
With a kid like Jackson, is he still humble and willing to listen to instruction, or is he so good that he almost blows older people's opinions off?
Not really, and that's what I said. He's a special kid.
Yeah.
He's probably the most humble guy that walks through your clubhouse every day. His teammates love him. There's nothing special that he's asking for on a daily basis. You talk baseball, you talk about the daily work, and this kid's listening, and he's asking questions, and he's working he knows that he needs to get better every day, because he's only 19 years old and still long ways to go, regardless what kind of ball player, what kind of prospect you are.
Wanted to ask you about a couple. One in particular is a current player that just got promoted from you. It was a draft pick from, I think, 2 years ago. Creed Willems, the catcher. He was having a terrific season with you guys, and now he's up to the Aberdeen Ironbirds. Can you tell us your impressions of Creed?
Well, we had Creed with about a month and a half into the season last year as an 18-year-old, and he struggled. We expected some growing pains, and he went through that and came back this year. And he's another kid that got it somewhat better shape, and understanding what he went through last year. I think his habits changed a little bit, and this is another kid that embraced being around younger guys, so he can pass along some of the struggles he had last year. And I think all of that combined, with how hard he worked and how willing to learn and go through the challenge every day helped him, and I think that was the main reason of all this success this year.
We're talking with Felipe Alou Jr. We've got him for a few more minutes. He's the manager of the Delmarva Shorebirds. And tell me about one more thing about Creed before I move on to another catcher, and that is Creed a guy you can project in your mind? Forget whether he hits or not, because I think he will, but is he a major league caliber catcher prospect, or is he more of a bat-first prospect?
Well, his bag is dictating, and I'm pretty sure we like his bat when we drafted him.
Yep.
But I think there's tools to catch. There's a good arm. There's a good understanding for calling pitches. There's a good understanding of working with the pitchers. His blocking got better. His framing got better. So I think he'll be definitely a guy that has a chance to catch him pitches.
All right. One more position player I want to ask you about. He's still with you right now. He's an international signing. Is catcher Samuel Basayo. Can you talk a little bit about him and how good can he be?
Well, this is another kid that could be a really special one. He's only 18 years old, so he's 3 years younger than the league average age, and he's having some pretty good results. Going through a little bit of growing pains the last couple of weeks, which is something to expect. But this kid, he could be a good all-around package. He can catch, he can throw. He's a really smart base runner, and then he can hit. He's got 41 RBIs.
Yep.
And we're not even at the midway point. So for an 18-year-old kid to being able to do what he's been doing, he definitely has someone special. So he's maturing. There's a long ways to go because he's so young. But also, he's very demanding on himself. This is a kid that works really, really hard on a daily basis. And I know he put up a really good work during the off season. And there's no doubt why, his numbers are where they're at.
So I want to ask you a question. The three players I've asked you about so far, Kerstad, Willems, and Jackson Holiday, of course, are draft picks by the team. Samuel Basayo is an international signing. How well do you know Director of Scouting, International Scouting, Kobe Perez Sr.? Do you know him pretty well?
Oh yes. I'm pretty well. I know him from my playing days.
I figured there was a connection there. Tell me, when will we start to see, and I knew when they signed Kobe and this regime with Mike Elias started to invest so heavily in international scouting, they always told us this isn't like a year or two process. It's 3 to 5 years before you first start to see players. Are we on that timetable where by, say, the 2025, 2026 season, we'll start to see some of the fruits of that investment in international scouting at the big league level?
I think so. And that's honestly that's one of the biggest reasons that I'm here.
Yep.
Managing at this level, because we're getting guys through Samuel Basayo and Anderson De Los Santos and pitcher Moises Chase and Juan De Los Santos. So those players are coming through now, and I think Kobe was hired for the beginning of 19. So we're on that timetable, and we just continue to add more prospects. I know our complex league team is full of talent right now, and some of the guys that played there last year, including a kid like Angel Tejada that came in a little later, and I know he's doing pretty good. And so yes, we're in that timetable, and we're going to continue to see more international signees in the next few years as well.
So one or two more questions with Felipe Alou Jr., manager of the Delmarva Shorebirds. So far, the players I've talked about have all been position players. Are you seeing any arms? And I'm looking at one in particular. I just did the numbers last night. I looked at Deve Cruz, who's 4-0 with a 4.25 ERA, but he's only 19 years old. Are there some pitching prospects starting to percolate in the system that you see?
Yes, definitely. I think I just mentioned Chase Ponce, who we had for a little bit last year.
Yep.
There's a kid from Minnesota. We get a little bit of money. Was here last year. Went through the growing pains. This year again, stuff all around. He's picking up. He's throwing the ball well. David Cruz, definitely another guy. He got exposed to the level last year. I think threw the ball fairly well for an 18-year-old kid. Now he's here at 19, which is still a couple of years younger than the league average. He's actually pitching tonight for us. So yeah, there are some arms. Especially there's a lot of arms now in Florida, so we're going to start seeing more arms.
Is Cruz a kid who will fill out more and be bigger and stronger in 2 years?
I would think so. He's not very physical right now.
Right.
Average size at best, but I think yes, I think he's a kid that hopefully we'll be able to add a little more muscle. There's pitch ability there. He's just young. He's just being challenged at a level that's still a little older than him. But I think he's definitely going to grow and he'll continue to develop.
All right, you got a three remaining games at home against Down East tonight at 7:05. It's a fireworks night. 7:05 tomorrow night. It's another fireworks night, and then at 2:05 on Sunday afternoon. You then hit the road for let's see, it looks like 6 games, and then you come back on June the 20th. You've got the Augusta team in there for 6 games. How's the attendance been so far? The weather's just starting to get a little better.
Attendance has been good. Actually a couple nights ago, dealing with all these smog, coming down from up north. We dealt with that the last couple nights, and I still think that the attendance was pretty decent. So they're supporting the team. Weather's nicer today. It's a lot better. It's actually the best than the last couple of days. So yeah, looking for the fans to continue to show up and support our team.
Felipe, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I know you're doing a great job with the Delmarva Shorebirds, bringing some of these kids to a position for them to succeed. Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it, and thank you for having me.
All right. There he is, Felipe Alou Jr., the manager of the Delmarva Shorebirds. Good guy, I can tell. He's a good guy. And I had a feeling there was it's an important thing if you're investing so much money in these kids in the international signing area, Griffin. It's a good thing to have managers that speak the language, because it's a crucial first couple years at, these kids come over. It's an entirely different culture. They're homesick. They don't know how to speak English, a lot of them at this time. It really helps to have coaches and managers like a Felipe Alou Jr.
Yeah, it's almost a requirement really for that level of the organization, and really any organization. If you're a good, well-run organization like it appears the Orioles are kind of turning towards in the last several years, especially with the farm system.
It's really interesting because you brought it up to Lee Lowenfish about the international signings. We have not even seen. We haven't seen. I guess Felix Bautista must have been an international signing by the Duquette regime. I'm guessing. But they weren't spending any money. Dan hadn't got the approval from Peter to really delve into this area the way they're invested now, and we haven't even begun to see the fruits of that labor. And I think, like I said, 25, 26, 27, all of a sudden, if you get 2 pitchers on your staff of 12 or 13 pitchers, if you get 2 pitchers and 1 regular player, that's a chunk of your team. 3 or 4 players, suddenly starts to be 15%, 20%, and I think it'll grow from there too. And I think that's one of the ways that you will be able to afford keeping top-level talent is because you'll be able to get it, in the system a little bit cheaper in the international market.
Yeah, you want to stay here and we'll connect with Steve Stewart here?
Yep.
All right.
Orioles play tonight, weather permitting or air quality permitting, and all signs seem to point to the day being a lot better position for that. Yesterday would have been problematic if the Orioles had played at home. They got a 3-game homestand against the Kansas City Royals, and then a 3-game trip in by the red-hot Toronto Blue Jays, who are suddenly playing baseball at a much better rate right now. They just swept the Minnesota Twins, or did they win 3 out of 4 against them? I think they swept the Twins 3 in a row. Yeah. Toronto, no, wait a minute. They swept the Astros. They won 3 out of 4 against the Astros. I'm sorry. The Twins lost 3 in a row to the who did they play? Anyway, we're going to take a timeout. I'll get back to who the Minnesota Twins played. It can't be that much. They played the Houston Astros. Toronto beat 3 in a row. The Twins were playing Tampa and lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Knew it was one of those teams. All right. Anyway, we're going to take a quick timeout, and we'll be back with Steve Stewart. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, O's superfans! Marvel Superhero Day is coming to Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Saturday, June 10th, when the O's play the Kansas City Royals at 4:05. Be one of the first 25,000 fans 15 and over at the game to receive an exclusive Adley Rutschman bobblehead inspired by Captain America. Come out to experience the Marvel Universe at Oriole Park and arrive early for Early Bird Saturdays. Gates open 2 hours before first pitch with happy hour, live music, and more. Buy tickets now at Orioles.com/tickets.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holiday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
Stan the Fan Charles, in for Glenn Clark. Again, Glenn has had a family situation, family funeral today. Glenn will be back in on Monday. We are joined now by one of the voices of the Kansas City Royals, and that is an old friend, He was former sports director, WBAL Radio, and part of the Oriole broadcast team for a while. It's Steve Stewart. Steve, how are you?
Hey, Stan, doing well. How about yourself?
Doing pretty well. Wanted to catch up with you and get a little scouting report on what's going right and what's going wrong with the Kansas City Royals. Do you think they've got this thing starting to head in the right direction this season?
Well, we're all hoping so. What we're hoping is the turnaround is going to start looking like what the Orioles have been doing. The question is when.
Yeah.
We're not quite there yet. It's a very, very young, the core of the team is still young and learning and hasn't established themselves yet. There's definitely some talent here, some high draft picks here. These rebuilds sometimes can take a while and certainly have bumps and bruises along the way. And, our record will tell you. Our record will tell you we're having those right now.
Right, you're having the bumps and the bruises. One of the most befuddling players that the Kansas City Royals have is right-handed pitcher Brady Singer, who looked at the second half of last season as if he was going to come into 2023 and be kind of a top 5, maybe even certainly top 10 pitcher in the league. He was so dominant the last half of last year, and this year he slipped backwards again. What do you think happened?
Yeah, it's been frustrating. No, certainly frustrating for him. It's frustrating for the club. But I do think, and he's not the only guy you'll hear this about. He was on the WBC Team USA,
right,
and was gone for a lot of spring training. And he only got to pitch one time, and it didn't go well. And so he pitched, 2 innings or whatever over about a 3-week period or something like that. So that didn't help, right? That kind of got it started in kind of a tough way, because then you come back and you're a little bit rushed to get ready for your season. And so the season didn't get off to a good start.
Right.
And so at April, and I'm just top of my head, April was very rough. It felt like in May things began to look better, and since then they've looked better. So it's still not where he wants it, but it's not as bad as when it started. But obviously the ERA is still much higher than you'd want it to be. He's a very confident young guy. He was a first-round pick out of Florida, won a College World Series, had a lot of success as an amateur, and like you said, had a great season last year. And so they're still very high on him. The league has seen him now. He's not a secret anymore.
Yep.
I still think if he were a stock, you'd want to buy. But I know that I think I saw a stat somewhere that he and Alek Manoah both had the highest. This is as of maybe a week ago. Both had the highest increase in their ERA over a year ago.
Yep.
Which I know Manoah got sent back, and Brady thankfully hasn't been quite in that bad a situation, and I think in the last few weeks has been trending better.
Yeah, he pitched a real nice game last time. I think he had 6 shutout innings the last time.
Yeah,
Singer.
so we'll see. And obviously the Orioles are home, and they got some good offensive talent. So we'll see how he does. But yeah, he's somebody with great ability, and he seems to be healthy, which is the number one thing.
Tell me about a couple players on this team. Obviously, Bobby Witt's going to be the shortstop long term. Not having a great season from a statistical batting average point of view, but he's doing the rest of the stuff pretty good, and he's a fixture there. Michael Massey and Miguel Garcia, how are they going to square getting time in this? Are they deemed regulars on this team?
Well, Bobby definitely is, and one of the things that in Bobby's overall game, I would say, looks better this year, even though the batting average isn't where you'd want it or the on-base percentage. But, the power numbers have been pretty good the last couple of years. The speed is unquestionable. He's a base stealer and a threat anytime he's on base. But Bobby, he'd been a shortstop his whole life. Last year, they kind of moved him around. They moved him to third quite a bit. He played a little second in spring training. And this year they decided that there was so much on his plate, and he likes being a third baseman. That's what he's been. Let's put him at third. I'm sorry.
At short. He likes shortstop.
Yeah, he wanted to stay at shortstop. so he's been at short all year. And his defense has definitely been better. Like the metrics last year were not very kind at short, but part of that was he kept moving around. So this year he literally has only played shortstop, and he's been the everyday guy there. The on base isn't where you want it. You know, he's still kind of learning in every aspect, but his tools, his talent is unquestionable, and his shortstop play has been really, really good. So that it does appear to be his spot. Michael Garcia has been a shortstop his whole life up through the minor leagues. And with Bobby at short, he moved to third earlier this season in the minor league and just got a little taste of it at AAA. And he's done a great job at third base. I mean, he's got a cannon for an arm, very accurate, just a very smooth, slick infielder. And he'll play short when Bobby's DHing or has a day off or whatever. Michael Massey is a really impressive young man out of the University of Illinois, who's a very steady second baseman. Looks like a pretty good offensive player, left-handed hitter with a little bit of pop. Hasn't really shown it a lot in games at the major league level yet, but really kind of heady player, son of a coach who also played University of Illinois and kind of coached him his whole life. This, by the way, is our dad's trip. So Michael's dad is on the trip. Bobby Sr. is on the trip. A lot of the dads. We were in Miami here and then got here Wednesday night. They had the day off here in Baltimore Thursday. So a lot of fun for a young team to have all the dads along on this trip.
Yeah, I've noticed Massey has really picked up the pace. He was struggling in the 180s. I think he's up to about 240 now. He's really done a good job.
Yeah,
righting
he was
the
like
ship.
in the 140s in April and like 3-something in May. So he definitely got it together the second month.
I know that because I have both Garcia and Macy on my fantasy baseball team.
Okay.
That's how I follow them that closely. We're talking with Steve Stewart, one of the voices of Kansas City Royals. You got a freshman manager in Matt Cortero, JP Piccolo, right? Is that the GM?
It's actually it's an uncommon pronunciation on the name. It is JJ Piccolo.
Piccolo. Okay. Tell me a little. It's JJ, not JP. JJ Piccolo. Tell me a little bit about the relationship these two guys have together, and do you see this as a marriage that's going to be long term? They're the guys that are going to be really tasked with turning this thing around.
Yeah, I think so, and they're pretty similar people in a lot of ways. They really, it really struck us this winter. We had a chance to meet with both of them at the same venue this off season. I got to know. We knew JJ really well because he was really Dayton Moore's right hand man here all those years. So we knew JJ very, very well. And the owner, John Sherman, the majority owner, really took to JJ Piccolo, and as much good as Dayton did with the Royals over the years, I think it was seen that JJ was a little more analytically driven, a little more data driven than Dayton had been. And I think Matt Quatrero is in that camp as well. Matt has a real good way about him with the young players and the young guys. His communication skills, his general vibe, and that he sends through the clubhouse, I think is what JJ was looking for. So again, the results aren't what you want yet, but the reaction has been positive, definitely, for both.
Quick question about Matt Quatero's predecessor, Mike Matheny. Mike, when he lost the Cardinal job, he really worked hard at sort of changing his appreciation of analytics, and also I think he worked hard on the personal relationship with players. Do you think Mike will get a third opportunity to manage?
It's a great question, Stan, because we didn't know him that well when he was in St. Louis. It's like anything you see him as an opposing manager.
Right.
And I always had a high opinion of him, and he had a lot of success over there in St. Louis. But he, to his credit, like you say, he worked a lot. I mean, he literally took courses, classes on analytics.
Yep.
He took classes in media relations, which I think my understanding was had been kind of an issue in St. Louis at times for him.
He had an edge. He had an edge on him when he was St. Louis manager, and he seemed much more personable. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how he's wired. I mean, that's what made him, he won 4 Gold Gloves.
Yep.
He's a really good catcher, leader for a long time. And he does have a little bit of an edge, I guess. But I'll tell you what, with us, whatever we heard about him from St. Louis, we didn't see that. I mean, he was fantastic with all the media every minute of every day we ever dealt with him. And it just felt, and the analytics, I mean, he clearly dove into the data and was very comfortable in all those respects. So I don't know for sure. I know that he's got a big family. He's got grandchildren now, and even though he's not he's still a young guy.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
He's a really good baseball man.
Yeah, I think he's still well respected. Our producer Griffin Bass has got one for you, Steve.
Hey, Steve. So we're kind of looking back at this series and kind of want to focus on tonight with obviously Daniel Lynch on the mound. Orioles fans obviously don't know a whole lot about him. What kind of is he a guy that the Royals kind of see as a long-term solution and long-term part of this rotation, or is he just kind of a guy that's filling in this season and you might see him every now and then?
Well, they hope he's kind of a fixture in the rotation like they hope Brady is as well. They were both from the same draft in 2018. He's out of UVA. He's a Richmond, Virginia area product, so he's not far from home. And we also have Vinny Pasquantino, who's from Richmond, not far from home, and Jackie Bradley Jr. is from Richmond as well, among other people in our organization who are with our team right now. But he is a guy who he was having a really good spring, but his last start, the last week of spring training, he suffered a shoulder injury strain of some form, and so he had to come out of that game, and he had to shut it down for not that long, but you know how it is with the starter. When you shut it down for even a short period, it's frustrating. You spend all that time building up the whole spring, and then you got to start all over again. So he really missed April and into May, I think most of May. So he's only, I think, 2 starts into his season, 2 or 3. But he's a lefty who's 6'6", who's not a fireballer, but he's got a pretty good fastball, 94, 95, pretty good movement, and pretty good off-speed stuff. His changeup's been working really well for him, again, in the little bit of time we've seen him this year. But, this whole season for this group is about answering questions and hopefully taking a step forward, whatever that step is. And Daniel is definitely in that group, so we'll see. We haven't seen yet the full picture, what we're hoping to see, but he's definitely shown ability at times of what his ceiling can be. But again, no idea tonight what we'll see.
And then I guess
except that he'll probably have a pretty good contingent here from Virginia.
Gotcha. And on Sunday, I guess, so the Royals haven't really announced their starter yet, but it seems like it's kind of lined up to be Zach Greinke. I'm not sure if you know if that'll be if it should be Greinke. I guess the Orioles fans are kind of hoping to avoid him as he blanked the Orioles obviously a month ago in Kansas City.
Yeah, top of my head, I'm not sure. He pitched in Miami. The Royals, another young pitcher they don't have this year is Chris Brubich, who's out with Tommy John for the year. And so they've employed an opener more frequently than they ever have in the past. Of course, that's something Matt Quatrero was comfortable with from his Tampa Bay days. And even in Tampa Bay, they would only do it because they didn't have enough starters, And so the Royals have used, Carlos Hernandez as a starter and then brought in Mike Myers, maybe the second or third inning after that. So they've used that combo as well as these other guys we're talking about. And we got Greinke versus Lyles just pitched the other night.
Hernandez is somebody who really struggled early in the season, and now that he's been that opener, it seems like it's really worked well for him.
It has, Dan. About young guys that throw really hard. There's always usually there's a learning curve, and a lot of times there's a wildness factor they have to work through. And Carlos definitely had that. He came up in 2020, the COVID year. that was a weird year because certain guys got rushed, and either you were in the alternate site camp all year or you jumped to the big leagues before you were ready because there was no minor leagues at the time. And he wound up coming up in 2020 and has had some really good flashes and some rough times. They've had him start, they've had him relieve. But I'd say if you watch him pitch, he really does profile as a back of the bullpen kind of talent, as long as he's on his game. And the opening thing really has agreed with him, And the last time out, it was 2 innings, boom, 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 6 up, 6 down, 3 strikeouts. And it's carried over somewhat into him also pitching in relief, although, still you always know those late innings, especially the 8th and the 9th, with not much of a safety net is a little different animal than even the first and second inning, although there you are facing the top of the order and the middle of the order if you're in for 6 outs, so it's good experience. So he's another guy that we're watching, and he's answering questions about his own future every time he goes out there. But, when you throw 100 and pretty good slider splitter with it, he's another buy in your market if you're looking for relief pitchers.
Hey, I got one last question to ask you about a sort of obscure name to outside of Kansas City, but you got another top prospect, pitching prospect, draft pick, Jackson Kowar. Tell me a little bit about him, and it looks like, because we talk about it here with somebody like D.L. Hall in our system about should he be a reliever or should they keep him as a starter. It looks like this year the Royals have made the decision to convert Jackson Kowar to a relief pitcher. And how's it going so far?
Yeah, Jackson was from that same 18 draft where the Royals got Brady Singer and they got Daniel Lynch and Chris Bubich, among others. And Kowar is a Florida Gator. It's funny, he was roommates in college, teammates with Brady Singer, their best friends.
Wow, I didn't know
Jackson,
that.
Yeah, and Jackson just got called up this past week, and so his dad's on this trip too. And in his dad's case, it's kind of neat. I got to talk to him the other day. A lot of the dads had a few weeks' notice about this trip, and they could plan around it, make time in their schedule. He was like last minute. He's like, "Dad, you got to come on this trip." And so his dad's, he's from Charlotte, and his dad's a banker, and was able to rearrange his schedule. His dad played 1 year in the minors with Toronto, and so he had a baseball background, played college ball. Obviously, Jackson has gotten to the big leagues. And Jackson is one of these guys with pretty big arm and a great changeup, but the fastball changeup combo worked for him beautifully as an amateur through high school and college, even at Florida. Then you get to pro ball, and you need more than just 2 pitches, especially when you start. And having said that, he was racing through the minors a couple of years ago, and I mean he was completely dominating at AAA. And he got up here, the lights were bright, the hitters were better. It's a tougher deal, and so it was rough on him when he first got here. And he's been up a few times this season. He's been up twice now, and it feels like so far in a small sample size, like he's the most comfortable he's been. And a lot of that is he's we have a new pitching coaching staff on this club. Brian Sweeney is the pitching coach now, and in spring training he worked a lot. He's worked in the past, but in spring training especially worked on a slider, a third pitch, and he worked on that there. He worked on it at AAA, and he's brought it up here, and it's been a pretty good pitch. And it's made a big difference. And you combine that with just the fact that he's been here before, he's more comfortable.
Yeah.
And because he has a starter background, he has been pitching multiple innings. So I don't know if his future might be back to a rotation spot down the road. At the moment, they're happy, with the bullpen. And I mean, he still has, he's been optioned this year already. So we don't know for sure if he's going to be here the whole year or not. But these a couple of times they've seen him recently, he's looked pretty good. He's a good young man, and his dad taught him the changeup. He was telling us the other day he started throwing it when his dad had him throw when he was 6 years old, the circle change, when his fingers weren't big enough yet, and he was throwing it all over the place, and he wanted to throw it other ways. And dad was like, "No, keep throwing it that way." And eventually he grew, and his hand got bigger. By the time we got to high school, nobody could hit it, and he was dominant with it, and they got him to be a first-round draft pick. So So it's kind of a neat story. But another, so many of these guys have such great backstories and great families behind them. And Jackson's another one of those guys.
Yeah, Orioles have a pitcher in Michael Baumann who was drafted under Dan Duquette's regime, but he was struggling as a starter. And all of a sudden this year they said, you know what, we're going to turn you into a reliever. And he's been a real find out of that bullpen. And he's moved into manager Brandon Hyde's circle of trust, so to speak. Hey, Steve.
Well, I'll tell you, they've been I know they've had their ups and downs lately, but overall it's been a really fun team to watch, the O's, that's for sure.
All right. Well, I'll look forward. I'll say hello to you this weekend. And thank you for joining us here and laying out some stories about the Kansas City Royals.
Okay, guys, anytime. Take care.
All right. Thanks. Steve Stewart of Kansas City Royals broadcast team. We want to remind you, Glenn Clark out today due to a family situation, a family funeral. He'll be in on Monday. He'll be back with a whole week of shows next week. But we're getting close to closing time, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
What do we still got?
I mean, I think we've covered just about everything. The Orioles did make a move in the last 5 minutes.
What have they done?
They have recalled a pitcher from AAA.
And is it?
It is not Cole Irvin. It is Nick Vespi. They've optioned Bruce Zimmerman. They've recalled Nick Vespi. So I guess kind of leaves it still open for tomorrow that they can make the move.
Yeah, they could easily send Vespi down after tonight's game and bring Cole Irvin up tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah, Vespi still has, I think, 2 options left.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, you still want to see Cowser and Westberg at some point, and I guess it will not be today. You assume it won't be tomorrow either because they probably won't make like 2 or 3 moves all on a Saturday.
Yeah. But Vespi clearly here to be insurance tonight if they need an arm. It's interesting. I thought all along when we were worried about what they would do when Givens and Tate came back, and we got a dose of more than a dose of Michael Givens, not ready, physically not ready. So he's back on the IL. Michael Tate, who knows when we'll see him this year. Dylan Tate.
Yes.
Michael Tate. I don't know where I got that from.
Michael Tate. Givens, Michael Tate.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Yeah.
That's probably what it was.
But
Keegan Aiken was somebody I thought was doomed when they got back, and he was. When they brought Givens in, Aiken kind of went down. Aiken's come back, and he's looked pretty good his couple times out so far.
Yeah.
A little more aggressive.
Any chance, if it's not Cole Irvin, is there any chance they bring back Grayson Rodriguez, DL Hall? It almost. I guess Grayson. We're not inside Grayson's window yet, are we? So Grayson can't be recalled yet since he was. It has to be like 15 days. It doesn't have to be
10
like,
days.
It's 10 days.
Yeah, I think it's 10 days.
All right, then I guess he would make it.
Yeah.
But
I don't
Hall,
think
Spencer Watkins even.
I think they're making the wrong move by bringing now Watkins. I don't know how he's pitching. He's at least somebody that wouldn't be intimidated by things. He's been, but Grayson to me, the problems he was having didn't seem like there were 1 or 2 starts in AAA problems. It seems like he's got to really think through some things, take a deep breath a little bit more. I think he's battling a little bit being Grayson Rodriguez. The aura of invincibility when a starting pitcher throughout most of his minor league career is used to throwing 3 to 4 innings, tops, and then all of a sudden you want him to go 6. It's a huge difference,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, so hopefully it'll be Cole Irvin tomorrow morning that they announce, and otherwise I guess they're going to bullpen it, and that's the reason for bringing Vespi up, which after what happened against Cleveland, you absolutely do not want to see. And it sounds like Brandon Hyde doesn't want to see either, but I guess
it's
we will see.
It's really starting to be a little strange with Irvin because he was acquired. It would be one thing if Kramer, Bradish, Wells, and Gibson were all phenomenal.
Yeah.
Then you go, well, I can see why you want them out there more often. The 5th starter spot has been a guy pitching with a 7 ERA, which is Grayson Rodriguez, and Cole Irvin, who had a bad 3-start stretch. But if they had looked at his numbers last year with Oakland, Griffin, he had a bad 3 starts at the beginning of last year.
Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully it's Irvin. For
Yeah.
what it's worth, Spencer Watkins, he's been terrible.
Yeah.
6.55 ERA
Yeah.
in 22 innings with Norfolk. 1.95 WHIP.
You know what I'm finding, though? It's really interesting now. I'm seeing these pitchers being brought up, like this guy Reese Olson that was brought up by the Tigers the other day. I saw him pitch against the White Sox, and Steve Stone was doing the broadcast because it was a White Sox feed. Jason Benetti and Steve Stone. And Stone was raving about this guy, and he mentioned, he goes, it's hard to imagine this guy being at AAA with a 5+ ERA. And I went and looked at his numbers this year. They're terrible at Toledo for the Tigers organization. Has come up and he's pitched 2 starts. He actually, yesterday, he came in as the bulk guy and threw very, very well. But Jackson Coher brought up to the majors. I'd say, I bet he's finally pitching really well. ERA over 5 runs a game. You know, I've seen it with a number of pitchers this year.
I mean, even like Seattle's done it. They did it with George Kirby last year and Bryce Miller. They brought him straight up from AA. It's like they skipped AAA, and sometimes I guess it's just the right situation. Sometimes the AAA situation just isn't the best, and that's how it works.
Got to ask you one last thing here on fantasy baseball. You were a big help to the daddies in my league. Were you the brains behind Joe Adell?
I was the brains behind Joe Adell. Yeah.
I had a feeling.
I had a good what was that called? The Ultra Draft, is that what it was called?
Yeah.
I had a good bonus round in the Ultra Draft.
Bryce Miller,
Joe Adell.
Got
to make sure I go out and get Joe Adell for my team after this.
You should go back to the president of that team. Ask for more money.
Ask for more. Yeah. I mean, the rest of the team I don't think's doing so hot. If I'm
last
correct.
place.
Yeah,
last place.
But I had to follow his rule. I had to follow the rules that I was given.
You were a good soldier.
He didn't want Ohtani. I was like I would have gone $100 on Ohtani, probably more.
$100. He went for 65.
I know, and I would have easily gone 66 for sure. And the daddies didn't want it.
Yeah.
So. You want to get into a tidbit?
Yeah.
All right, so we have I'll do some obligatory tennis talk for Glenn. French Open going on semifinals right now. Carlos Alcaraz, he's 20 years old, and he's going up against 36-year-old Novak Djokovic right now in the
They're playing right now?
They're playing right now in Paris.
Oh,
we could turn it on. I mean,
okay.
But Glenn would have for sure had it on. We don't, obviously. It's fine. We can. I can tell you the score. It is Joker's up 2-1 right now. But the 16-year age gap is the 4th largest in any semifinal in the Open era. 16 years between the ages of Carlos Alcaraz, number 1 player, and the number 3 player, Djokovic. So who you got in that one?
Long term at this point, I like Alcaraz.
You like the younger? You like the youngster?
Yeah, but today I'm not sure.
Yeah, you'd be right. Alcaraz was favored, but Joker's up 2-1 right now, and he's currently up 3-0 in the 4th set, so he has a chance to close it out on young 20-year-old Carlos. So Glenn's gonna be disappointed, actually.
Yeah, I was rooting for Alcaraz.
Me too.
And who's the other semifinal?
The other one is Casper Ruud and Alexander Zverev. Who Glenn does not like Zverev. Apparently, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
So I guess we're rooting for.
Glenn knows a thing or two about bad guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. The other nights also, John Gray had a great start for Texas. However, he did not get the win. He went 9 innings, complete game, 4 hits, 1 run.
I bet on. DraftKings has a no sweat bet.
Oh, okay.
Where you bet it, and even if you lose, you get
your
the money
back
to bet again tomorrow or later that night. And I took him
first stand later that hour.
I took him over Flaherty, Jack Flaherty, St. Louis, because he had not been pitching that well. Of course,
you just needed him to win.
It was a win, and Gray lost 1-0.
Yep. Yeah.
Struck
12
out
strikeouts.
12 strikeouts.
12 strikeouts. Didn't walk a single batter. Allowed 1 run, and they lost 1-0.
Yeah. Gave up a home run. Gave a home run up to a rookie.
I believe you're right. I don't know who they play. I forget who.
St. Louis and Texas. It was the Cardinals.
Oh, and you okay? So you took.
It wasn't Walker, and it wasn't Carlton. It was another guy hit the home run.
I will tell you in 10 seconds, Glenn. But however, it is the second time in history. Is it Alec Burleson?
I think it was.
Alec Burleson. I've never heard of him.
Yeah.
Good for him getting the win for the Cardinals on Wednesday night. Second time ever that that a pitcher gets given the loss with those numbers: complete game, 9 innings, 4 hits or less, 1 run allowed, no walks, 12 or more strikeouts. The only other time it happened was by this pitcher. You want to try to guess?
And give me.
He lost to the Orioles in October 2nd, 2012. Chris Davis hit a home run in the 4th inning off him. This is the only other time that a pitcher's gone 9 innings, allowed 1 run, allowed 4 hits or fewer, didn't walk a single batter, and had 12 or more strikeouts.
Can you give me a team he was with?
He was with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Back in that era. Would that have been Archer?
Not Archer. It was, you want me to just give it to you?
Yeah.
Big game James Shields. Complete game. Struck out 15. Struck out 15, but however, gave up 1 home run. Orioles only had 2 hits in the whole game.
It wasn't a real good Oriole team.
2012. That was the year they made the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was a good Orioles team.
Okay.
Miguel Gonzalez was on the mound that night. Went 6 2/3. Didn't allow a run.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Great question.
Brian Mattis appeared. Darren O'Day scoreless out of the bullpen, and Jim Johnson picked up his 51st save that season. And
wait a minute. We beat James Shields.
We beat James Shields 1-0.
Okay.
We beat James Shields 1-0. Ellie De La Cruz hit his first career homer Tuesday night, Wednesday night? I think
for
that was
the
Wednesday.
Reds.
Yes, for the Reds. It was the second hardest home run tracked in the StatCast era. For his first career home run behind only this White Sox batter.
I'm gonna guess Luis Robert.
Not Luis Robert. That's a good guess though. Jake Berger. Jake Berger. So 114.8 off the bat for Ellie De La Cruz, second hardest ever for first career home run in the StatCast era since 2015.
You're bringing up a guy who really pains me.
Jake Berger.
I had Berger last year for $1, and
didn't like.
And he was doing
good
phenomenally.
last year?
He was doing phenomenally well. He finally got in because Moncada, who was playing, Moncada sucks now. I mean, he really
Moncada
does.
I have another tidbit on him.
He's a nothing player anymore. Anyway, Berger's playing because Moncada's hurt. Plays about 14 or 15 games and hits like 6 or 7 home runs. You could look it up last year. All of a sudden, he gets hit on the hand and misses like 3 or 4 games. Moncada kind of comes back. Moncada's not doing well.
No.
Berger is screwed up because I forget if he went on the IL. He might have gone on the IL.
This season? Or
no, this is last year.
Oh, okay.
Comes back. LaRussa buries him again because LaRussa was feeling the heat, of the team doing poorly.
Since day one,
Yeah. So I end up throwing Berger in a trade. I have him for $1. And that guy didn't keep him this year. So he was available for me, and I go, that White Sox organization, they don't know, I just didn't think he's capable of 35 home runs.
Yeah, he's a great power bat. Maybe the Orioles can find a way to get him and put him where they're batting Mountcastle.
Yeah.
And then finally, I wanted to. So for my actual trivia for you, I wanted to do strikeouts per 9. Obviously, 10 strikeouts from Bradish last night, or I keep saying last night. It was yesterday.
Yeah.
So for the qualified pitchers, they've pitched 30
or more.
He pitched
5 innings.
Yeah, and he had 10 strikeouts. He's still not in the top 5 of the top Orioles in their strikeouts per 9 this season. But I want to see if you can name the top 5 Orioles in strikeouts per 9.
Strikeouts per 9. Number 1's got to be Bautista.
You would be correct. 18.6 in 30 innings.
Okay.
He has 60. Wait a minute. Where the strikeouts go? How many exact strikeouts? He's got 30 innings pitched, and he has 62 strikeouts. It's ridiculous.
He strikes out 2 out of every 3 hitters he faces. I'm going to guess Cano is in there.
Cano is top 5. He has 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, so averaging 1
And are we
inning.
taking Bradish out of this thing?
Yeah, Bradish is 7th on the list.
Okay.
Even after
So
yesterday.
Tyler Wells.
Tyler Wells is 4th.
Yeah.
9.22 strikeouts per 9 this season.
And it's not Kramer. It can't be Gibson. So it's got to be a relief pitcher.
There's
Michael
one more
Baumann?
starter. Michael Baumann, that is correct.
Yeah.
9.64. He's got the 3rd best strikeout per 9 on the Orioles this season.
Dean Kramer?
Not Dean Kramer. It is a starter who is currently at AAA.
It's not Cole. It's not Cole
It's not Cole Irvin.
Who's a starter we have at AAA?
We were talking about it a little bit, like 2 seconds ago.
Who?
Grayson.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good one.
Grayson's got 11.
Gone but forgotten
12.
for
yeah.
me. Yeah.
So hopefully he'll be back to improve that number. 11.12 strikeouts per 9 as he's got 56 strikeouts in 45.
I still think.
Major League innings.
Where do you think the ceiling is for Grayson Rodriguez?
I mean, ceiling. I think.
Or you can answer the floor. Where do you think?
Well, I mean, the floor
think he
seems to
hit
be.
the
Hopefully,
floor.
this is the floor. I guess that's what the hope's got to be. I mean, I don't think I ever see him being, a Cy Young type pitcher. I mean, like
I don't
it's
either.
so hard. All the hype that he had is being. He was like, was he the number one prospect?
Yeah,
he was the number one prospect.
Number one pitching prospect
in baseball. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, and for that to be the case,
you're
seeing these guys like Bryce
you're
Miller,
seeing guys like Zach Gallen,
Bryce
and
Miller,
Yuri Perez with the Marlins. The guy I wanted to get from the Marlins in the offseason was Jesus Luzardo.
Yeah, and the walk numbers just don't they don't do it. I mean, Dylan Cease's walk numbers are up this year, but last year Dylan Cease I think walked like 40 batters the entire season.
Yeah, they did. Frankly, piss poor would be a little too harsh. They did a poor job at developing Grayson, and I'll throw in the factor of the pandemic. That's a qualifier, and they had two bad pieces of luck with developing him. One was the pandemic, and one was last year when it looked like everything was going really, really well, and he tears that lat muscle.
Yeah.
And we don't know, is that impacting him this year?
We could have seen him last August or something if he stayed healthy.
Yeah, he would have been up. There's no question about it. I tend to think my point about how few innings he was pitching per start has a lot more to do with his struggles in the major leagues now. In other words, a bunch of these home runs, and Luke Jackson was the one who pointed it out to me, a bunch of the home runs he gives up are on the third time he's facing a hitter. The velocity's down a little.
Definitely tired. I mean, he does a good job of getting 2 strikes in a count.
Yeah,
doesn't exactly finish, and that's what we've been
seeing.
Who
had big problems with
walks.
that at one time is Kevin Gausman. Had huge problems. I can't tell you the times I would watch Gausman get to 2 strikes, and all of a sudden you go, he's going to get out of this inning with like 30 pitches in 3 innings,
and then all of a sudden
it's like 8 or 9 foul balls, and
the guy gets on, and then
the
next
walks
guy, another 8 pitch at bat.
Yeah.
So maybe we can bring Gausman as like a coach or something, and so
that
he
would
can
work.
teach
That
Grayson.
would work well. All right, do we have tubular?
Yeah, we do. We have tubulars. We'll just start with the sports. Obviously, the Orioles tonight. It's going to be on Apple TV Plus tonight.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, Ryan Spielberg, so he'll be on the call along with Alex Faust.
Right.
Daniel Lynch, we talked about him on the mound for the Royals. Tyler Wells tonight. NBA Finals Game 4, Nuggets and the Heat. Nuggets on top 2-1. That one is 8:30 on ABC and the ESPN Network's tennis channel. Obviously, right now you got Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic. Casper Ruud and Alexander Zverev will follow. I think they wanted to start at 11 a.m. Obviously, that is not going to happen because Alcaraz and Joker are still going. Masson 2 is going to have the Nationals and Braves. ESPN Plus will have the Chrome and the Archers in the PLL, then the Water Dogs and the Redwoods on ESPN Plus tonight. FS1, the Acorn Stakes, horse racing. Belmont's tomorrow, right? Or is
it is.
Yeah.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. The Belmont
is
was on the 19th.
It's next week. You're right. Yeah,
next week.
Yeah, next week.
3 weeks between the two.
Golf Channel for the PGA Canadian Open Round 2 and Adrian Broner boxing tonight on Fight TV. That's pay-per-view. Orioles play tomorrow at 4. Adley Rutschman bobblehead giveaway. Are you getting that one, Stan? The Captain America Adley bobblehead?
It's a possibility. It's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
They'll probably give it to the media tonight.
Oh, okay. All right. Are you gonna? So you might get it twice, is what you're saying?
No, I don't get it when I come in the ballpark the next day.
Oh.
They don't give me. When you walk in behind home plate, you got these volunteers from the Advocates. They do not give the giveaway to the media. The PR department does that.
Brady Singer on the mound for Kansas City. Orioles yet to announce their starter. Carolina Muchova and Iga Swiatek is the women's French Open final tomorrow at 9 a.m. That'll be on NBC at 9 a.m. Stanley Cup final, Game 4. Knights lead 2-1 after
That's
a big
tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
Overtime win by Florida in Florida.
Yes. Yeah. Matthew Tkachuk, overtime winner. Or forced overtime, and I think also got the winner.
Is
Maybe I have to
Matthew
double-check on
Tkachuk, is that kind of like the archive?
No. That's just I just like saying his name. Well, it's TK is the first two letters.
Tkachuk.
Tkachuk. It's Tkachuk. Let's see. A lot of everything else. GlennClarkRadio.com and Apple TV is going to have DC United at Atlanta United tomorrow. Whipsnakes Atlas will be on ABC. Top Rank Boxing, Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor. And UFC 289, Amanda Nunes and Irina Aldana will be pay-per-view, ESPN Plus. That starts at 10. And on Sunday, Royals-Orioles at 1:30. Kyle Gibson will be starting for the Orioles. And the Royals, sounds like they might just go with a bullpen game. After talking to Steve Stewart, French Open men's final will be at 9 a.m. between either Joker and Alcaraz or Ruud and Zverev. The rest, again, Peacock's going to be Diamondbacks Tigers at 11:30 a.m. The rest, Glenn Clark Radio. Non-sports, you got the non-sports today, right, Stan? That's how we did this.
Huh, I got nothing.
You got nothing?
I got nothing.
What are you going to want? All right, well, I'll give you one. Apple TV Plus, The Crowded Room new show. Tom Holland will be America's sweetheart, Tom Holland, which is weird because he's British, actually.
I'd like to get people's opinion on Citadel.
Citadel?
Again, that's the show that's on Amazon.
Yes.
6 episodes, and it's a show. Be prepared for multiple spin-offs on this show.
Okay.
That I guess they'll cut back a little bit in the spending. $50 million an episode to produce Citadel.
That is. The Russo brothers got money.
It's a long game plan they have there, but trust me, I'm not in. The 6 episodes of Citadel weren't that interesting.
So Tom Holland gets accused of murder, and Amanda Seyfried is investigating it because Tom Holland seems innocent. It's called The Crowded Room on Apple TV Plus, and that is really the non-sport highlight for the weekend.
Amanda Seyfried played Linda Lovelace in a movie.
I believe you.
Yeah. Got to talk to you one last time about a sponsor on the show, and that is the expert and award-winning A.J. Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is upon us. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. Did you notice what happened there? Because I openly talked about screwing up the word new every time.
You got it right.
I got it right.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well done.
That's all I got for today.
Yeah, thank the guests of the show. We had Marty Bass on.
Talking about the air quality situation. We had Lee Lowenfish on, who's written the book Baseball's Endangered Species Inside the Craft of Scouting by Those Who Lived It, a University of Nebraska publication. And then we had on Felipe Alou Jr. and Steve Stewart, one of the voices of the Kansas City Royals.
Now you throw it to me, and you can say you can find all those interviews in the greatest hit section of the
archive.
There we go. Okay,
archive.
That works. It's supposed to be the oh my god, it's so good tab.
Yeah. All right, that's good too.
Yeah.
All right, and I don't say that thing about Duke sucks.
Well, that's right, because you live there.
I live there.
Well, they do suck, Stan.
Right,
just so go Birds, go the rest of the local teams. I guess there's really no one else in action.
All right, and also that interview Gary and I had last night with Pat Scarry, head coach, Towson basketball winner of this year's Skip Prosser Man of the Year award.
That's right, yeah. And the bat around tomorrow? Is that?
Bat around, the boys will be on 10 to 12, and I will join them at some point in that show.
We good?
I'm good to go.
Well, there's one last thing. Duke sucks.